Welcome everybody to another edition of How Cool Is That? I'm Neil Mayers, and I'm here with one of our esteemed science colleagues, Jessica Matheson, and
Hi.
Shy too. Jessica, take just a minute and tell us a little bit about you and your background, if you would.
Okay, well, I teach general biology, microbiology, cell biology, our biology capstone course. So lots of different things, but biology classes at Germana. And I've been teaching here since 2011. So I have been through an earthquake and a pandemic and several hurricanes
That's
at
right.
Germana.
You were here for the earthquake too. I remember that. I was still an adjunct then, but now you full time that whole time?
Yes.
Very good. March of 2020, when the pandemic hit. Tell me about your situation, how much online teaching you were doing at the time, and how you were feeling when that whole transition happened.
So, so that semester, I usually have a mixture of online and hybrid classes, and then sometimes fully face-to-face as well. So in that semester, I had fully online and then a hybrid, probably two. However it worked out, right? I was on campus and then, a lot of online anyway. So I was in a good place, as in, I mentioned the earthquake because we had to go, I basically had to go hybrid my very first semester at Germana, because when we lost the building, the Dickinson, that's where all of our lab classes were. And so we had to go hybrid and because everyone was now meeting in one building. So I basically have been teaching some form online ever since the beginning, because that's what we had to do. So
So the earthquake was kind of a dress rehearsal for the pandemic then.
well, yeah, absolutely. And I think if I remember, it was more I could do lecture in class, and then we had to come up with online labs because we had classroom space, but we didn't have lab facilities, right? We were all in the workforce building, and there wasn't the lab facilities that were in the Dickinson. But while at Locust Grove, I could still do labs. So there was this whole mixture of normal versus not normal. So by the time we get to pandemic semester, I had already moved to OER materials, and I had been teaching all of the classes fully online or hybrid. So I was in a good spot, but also like no one was in a good spot, right? Like mentally, everyone is like, what is happening? We don't know what's happening. And even though I have the ability, I had a class that was fully online, but still the idea of like thinking when you're in this worldwide emergency is more difficult. So deciding what to do during the break, not giving assignments to students, so what to cut out, that was difficult. And then for science classes, for transferability, we require proctored proctored exams, at least two.
Okay.
So because it's a lab-based physical class, so they're more hesitant to take fully online classes because students aren't getting what they need.
Sure.
It's also technical based, right? Like there are things you legitimately have to know, like there are facts you have to know. So it is different than some other classes because it is competency based. It's not that other classes are just reflections and opinions. They're not, right? All classes have facts, but there are. Science is more like math, in that saying you have to know these things before a 4-year will take this class. Like they need to know that basic biology before they let you into an upper level biology class. So
you were kind of prepared, what I will say intellectually, but none of us were prepared emotionally for what we were dealing with. Is that the best way to, so the fact that you've done the online teaching helped you with the tactics, but not necessarily the emotions of the situation. March of 2020, once we all kind of recovered from the idea of what we were doing, what were the big challenges you saw?
So the biggest challenge would be that whole two stick out in my mind, the proctoring requirement. So like I have, a beautifully designed online course, but now I can't send the kids to the testing center. So I have to come up with some other assignment, right, that they have to do. And then I have to convert my hybrid class that met in person to this half in person, but now online. But now they had a group project that they were working on. They have their pathogen projects that both classes work on, but they were to present theirs in person. The other class was to present theirs online, and had practice doing discussions in Canvas, and then the other class hadn't had practice. So like the whole how do I get this class what they need and give this class what they need. So that was the most difficult kind of part about it. I also shared, I had a ton of stuff, right? Like I taught online, we had online labs, had it ready to go. So shared that stuff with, other people. So kind of the technology of how to share, like sharing privileges on things like that.
So you had there's proctoring, and I didn't think of that. Of course, you've got, so even though you were prepared, there's elements, extra steps you need to take, and then there's the idea of the hybrid class. There's one format, the labs, in-person labs that were out, couldn't do them anymore. So what'd you do? What'd you say? Okay, here's what I need to do to get this to make this work. What'd you do?
Well, so proctoring requirements, we just went back to good old fashioned essay exams, which, wonderful to grade, but it was particularly difficult to fit we were doing problem-based learning, right? That was our QEP. It was particularly difficult to try and get that to work in the hybrid now online class, right? Had set up to go in the online class, and then how to get that to go from, they're discussing in class the components as we go, and then they're supposed to present. So like, how do we get that? So after that, recovery period. So, okay, well, we're going to do essay tests. And my online class was going into so for microbiology, they practice these tests that you would do to identify a bacteria. And then for their final lab assignment, they just get a tube of a bacteria, and they have to do all the tests using their lab notebook and tell me, what it is. So I had to come up with this online case study version where they're investigating this outbreak at a Marine Corps base, and they have to, do some online simulations and things like that. So
you did online simulate. You found some online simulations. Where did you find them?
Well, there are some good places, like HHMI has BioInteractive, so they have some good simulations. There are some other places, like I think it's NC Bio Network. They had a whole bunch of different simulations you could do, PhET simulations. So fortunately, I did have some sites where I could go to, just because in my online class, we used simulations anyway. So I did have some, and knew where to look to get some other ones. As we went along, the science department and the VCCS bought into these Labster simulations, which are really good. So I still use my other simulations as well, but these are really good. And so I made the labs basically incorporate the Labster simulations as well as a kind of a significant portion of the lab. So
as hard as it is to get students to engage, or as hard as it was in February of 2020, it became harder now for a variety of reasons, one of which is we lost that face-to-face component, and particularly what you teach, Jessica, you lost that ability to demonstrate something. Tell us, you showed me once before how you use GIFs and other things, how you've integrated those into what you do to both not just get attention, but also to replace that aspect. Tell us what you did.
Well, the GIFs, yes. All right, I'm back. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Okay, so GIFs is what we were discussing. I'll just say a simple way that I use GIFs. Here is my syllabus. I just have a funny little Forrest Gump GIF saying hello to the students. In my instructor information, I have them in my Zoom and office hours as well. But I use them in my announcements. So I'm going to I have lots of pictures in them just for pictures, but so I'm going to go down to the first one. So just the welcome, just a little GIF to make it, something fun. I like them. I think they're funny. So that's why I use them. But I also use them in assignments. So here is one of the Google sites that I use for lab assignments. I think I do actually want to start using them for my reading material. So do you want me to show you the GIFs, or do you want me to talk about the Google sites before we get to the GIFs?
Oh, do both.
Okay. So because this kind of gets into why did I start doing this? So I've been OER, completely OER for a while now. And one of the things that happens with that is I feel like students get overloaded having to go to a million different links for different things, right? You want, this reading material and this simulation, and then complete this lab. There's a whole bunch of different links basically to click on, and maybe even different what they would perceive as I need to learn this website and this website and this website. So I had everything in a Google Doc, which works fine. I like Google Docs. You can update really easily, but I like the Google Sites because they look really visually appealing, right? So this is one of their labs. And so for this lab, they are making auger plates to grow samples on, and they have to go around and sample different locations. And so have you seen a petri dish before with like bacteria growing on it? So that is what they are making. They make homemade plates, and because we make them for them in labs at school, but they get to make their own. It turns out you can actually buy them on Amazon as well. So some students choose to do that, but there's recipes for how to make them on your own. So they make them. In the lab before this, they learn how to do that. So they practice, that skill of getting the basics down, and then they're going to go around and sample different locations at their home. And they would do this on campus as well. This is one of the first labs that we do. They go sample different places. So learning about all the weird places that you will find microorganisms. So background reading, some information with some great, pictures, so visuals.
And this is all on Google Docs.
So this is Google Sites, but yeah, so how microorganisms are involved in like carbon dioxide cycle and nitrogen cycle. That's one of their learning outcomes that they have to learn about. So the Google Sites allows me to like embed the video, so it's really nice and neat. Like they can see the video and it's just right there, and they can play it here.
This is the same format that Corinne Graves uses for Liquid Syllabus, right? It's at this Google Sites.
I'm not sure. I thought hers was Google Docs, but maybe not. I didn't.
One way or another, this is a fabulous tool. This is a very impactful, creative. It looks like a textbook, is what it looks like.
Well, and so this would be their lab manual, right? You teach a science class, you have a textbook, and you have a lab manual that's something you buy. This way, it allows me to use OER, but also makes it pretty, which I appreciate, and allows me to incorporate pictures and videos and words. And so other reading, so US Geological Survey, I can include this reading, some other videos, and even I don't think I have it in this one, but in this lab, I included Quizlets so they can practice different quizzes. I have some other simulations, like small simulations where they can just practice, it's not really for a grade, but they can practice different things. So I like that I can incorporate all that pretty neatly in there. So they'll go through the lab, they'll just read through, and then they can read here, like this is the actual assignment. So they'll click here, this is a Google Doc, and this is what they'll actually download, complete, and turn into Canvas so I can grade. And so this one is nice because this is where I can incorporated GIFs here. So you were like, what is a petri dish? Well, students are going to have that same question. So here I've included a picture, like this is your plate won't look like this, right? Because if you're making a homemade plate, it's not going to look like this, but they practiced it before. So like, oh yes, this is where I made the Jell-O mixture and I put it into my container, and those are what I'm going to start with. And then, I've had students questions like, what do you mean spread the sample on the plate, right? Like, how do you do that? And so, having the Google Docs lets me incorporate the GIFs so they can see, sample your location, take your swab, sample the location, and then you spread it across your plate just like this. So it's just a quick snapshot. They don't have to watch a long video. I have the right words, right? So that they should know how to do it, but sometimes you just need a little visual, like, I don't really know what that means. So it lets them just look at that real quick and they can see what they need to do.
So you've used Google Site to essentially grabbing your OER resources, your GIFs that help you demonstrate, as well as photos and other text, to create essentially what is your own textbook, haven't you?
Yes.
Wow, that's incredible. That's terrific. And it's in a very creative and appealing fashion, a format that puts it in a way that's all in one place. That's one of the things. Matter of fact, I was working on one this morning, Jessica, same thing, where it's an OER class and I'm integrating the resources. But you know what? I'm not this is a better way of doing it than what I'm doing, because it's putting it all in one document that's going to be easier for them to use. How's it work? How do students like?
I was trying to think of what I used before. I've always used Google Docs. Basically, as soon as I could, right, I started using it because I liked being able to like put the links in. I like a link to something else. So here, watch this video if you're not sure. And so basically, when I started specifically the micro class, we went into it knowing we were doing OER. And so just because I'm the type of person, I wouldn't want a million different things to look at. How can I streamline the OER? And so a Google Doc was nice for that, right? Google Doc, and even if it's a list of readings, I can include the whole list right there, and they don't have to go to different places, and it's easy for me to edit. So but this one reminds me, the one that I'm showing you guys right now, when I got to their 6th lab for the online class, I had a lot of questions. And so it's more than on the other one. And so I have realized, I don't have quite as many like tips for showing them how to do that. And I need to add more of those into that lab. So I think it really helps with them actually being able to visualize what they need to do. And then I get fewer questions. So I like, it looks nice, it helps them, and it saves me time because they don't have to ask me, and they can get their work done faster and get their lab completed on time. These labs take a long time. They have to make the plates have to solidify, have to sample all their locations, and they have to wait 2 to 3 days to grow. And so they need to be able to plan this out and get it turned in on time. And if they have to ask me a question and wait a couple of days, that could mean that they don't get their assignment turned in on time. So.
And it strikes me that if you start getting questions on step 4 here, you can go in and edit it and add another explanation on the step 4 on the fly, and it's there.
Yeah. And I had a question on, this last lab that I mentioned, and I sent the same video out a couple times, and I was like, I just need to put that in there. That will help them to visualize what they need to do. It's, honestly, it's the same question when I'm in class. They have it. They don't really quite understand. I'm saying all the right words and how to do it, but they just have never done it before, right? So they're like, I don't know what you mean, but I'm there to show them. But, it's easy. I just put this in. And the nice thing is, okay, so I use the same lab in several different class sections. And if it's in the Google Doc, and I'm using the same link for all of it, I just have to update it in one place. I don't have to go in and update it in 3 different Canvas shells, like if I had done it as a page in Canvas. So I really like that because I'm going to forget. I don't remember to update everything. Like I just can't. I forget all the little places. So that really helps not forget, that one class. Like, oh, I didn't update that for you guys. So I like that part of it.
If you're going to give advice to me based on your experience from doing this, what would you tell me? What should I do and what should I keep in mind?
Gosh, the thing that pops into my head is it's so easy to do. Like that is the thing that I liked about, okay, so for example, right, like I have been using Google Docs. I have all of this stuff in here. And so when I first started doing so if you have all the information together, it's very easy to do this Google site. And then you look like fabulous, like you've come up with this great thing. But, they have designs you can pick out. You put the headings in. If you have the material, you put your material in. And then you can link right to the video. And so then it looks great. You just have the title and a short summary in the video. So it's a lot quicker to do than you think if, you've already done the hard part of gathering all the information. I just think it's easier than you think it is, or might think that it is to do. And I just think it looks nice, and it's something that students would like to go through. So
that's what most social media marketers tell you, is that their biggest advice is jump in, just try it, just start doing it, and that's how you're going to learn. Well, Jessica, this has been super. The only problem is you've created more work for me because I'm now going to go redo everything I did this morning because this is a better way to do it. So,
but you're not even really redoing it, right? This is fun, right? Just copy and paste and put it in there, and Google is great at what they do and making you look good. So,
and I need all the help I can get. So, with that said, Jessica, thank you so much. This has been extremely helpful, and I appreciate your time. I enjoyed it. And for everybody else, thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next edition of How Cool Is That? Bye for now.